Good evening, everyone. Charlotte here from Enriching Environments on Tuesday evening, 27th of September. And this evening, hello everyone who's joining. Hello, I'll give everyone a few moments. Hi Sarah, thank you for joining. Welcome to everyone who's joining. Hi Sharinka. Let me give you a few little waves. And this evening, we are going to be talking about non-violent communication. Hello everyone who's joining with children. Non-violent can conjure up some strange images, so we can also call it giraffe language, and we can also sometimes it's called empathic or empathetic communication. And the reason, I don't know if anyone knows this, the reason it's called giraffe language is that giraffes have the largest heart of any land mammal. And so what NVC, what non-violent communication calls on from us is to have hearts as large as giraffes. So hence why it's called giraffe language, and that's a really beautiful way of speaking to children about it actually. As they come to have NVC, non-violent communication, a part of their lives, we can use that language with them, saying, for example, in a difficult situation, we can role model that by saying, oh, this is really tough, I'm really going to need my giraffe heart to be able to work out this problem or sort out this conflict or help this be resolved. So I think that's just quite a sweet image that it's called giraffe language. So what is NVC? NVC was developed by an American gentleman called Marshall D. Rosenberg. He actually has got this interesting link to Montessori education. The story goes that he developed NVC after observing his, I believe, daughter or his children in Montessori classrooms, and the way that children spoke to each other, the way that adults spoke to children in the Montessori environment. And he allegedly developed this NVC from that. And it's been used all over the world in all types of situations. It's been used in disputed territories. It's been used in schools, in prisons, in all types of political situations all over the world. So it's a really, really powerful tool. However, it's just one tool. I want to say that from the beginning. There's lots and lots of beautiful tools of respectful communication and internal family systems and gentle parenting, and NVC is just another tool in your toolbox that may resonate with you. Hopefully I'm going to be able to give you this evening, and my invitation for you is to see how this feels for you. What does this feel like for you? Do you resonate with some of the language? Do you resonate with some of these concepts? And if it feels right to you, you're going to be able to bring it into your language and your home and your family or your community, your school, however, wherever you're working. So before we go any further to talk about MVC, let's set our intention for this evening. Let's just sit for a moment and breathe together. Do a few shoulder rolls and maybe breathe in deeply. And then an exhale, and think about what intention, hi Oksana, think about what intention you'd like to set for this evening. So what would you like to take away from this session? How would you like to feel as you come away from this session? What is your intention for this evening? My intention is to transmit the beauty of nonviolent communication to you this evening, and I really hope that's going to come through. I lit my candle behind me when I set my intention, so I'm really hoping this transmission is going to come to you from my giraffe heart. So you have your intention, and let us dive in. As I said, nonviolent communication, often called giraffe language, as giraffes have the largest heart of any land mammals. And basically, there's three components of nonviolent communication. and these three components call upon our presence and our understanding. And the three components are: one, being with someone physically, mentally, emotionally. Hi Solange. Hi everyone who's joining. Being with someone physically, mentally, and emotionally. So we're having a full conscious experience when we're with someone and we're in a conflict or a non-conflict situation. Are we with them physically? Is the whole of us present with them in that space, whatever that space might be? It's reflective listening and rephrasing. So we actively listen. And the reflective part of it is then we mirror back what the person has said to us. So you use language like, what I'm hearing is, what I think I heard is, things like that. So reflective listening, and then you're mirroring back what you've said. And then the third component is basically expressing needs and feelings. And conflict basically arises when we feel that our needs are not being met in some way. So what MVC gives us, and this is the framework of it, is it allows us to express our feelings and our needs, because feelings are a pointer to where our needs are being met or not being met. Hi everyone who's joining. So feelings are a pointer as to where our needs are being met and not being met. So those are your three components: being with someone physically, emotionally, and mentally, reflective listening and rephrasing, and needs and feelings. So where should we dive in? If anyone has any questions, please do dive in wherever you are. Learning NVC is literally learning a new language. It's a language of life. It's a language of love. It calls upon us to be really, really open-hearted. When we first start using it, when we first start using this language, it is going to feel clunky. We are literally learning a new way of being, learning a new way of expressing ourselves. As adults, how hard is it to learn a new foreign language? So we can think of this as a new foreign language. Some of these concepts, hi Jenny, may be really hard for us to grasp. They might be really, really challenging to speak in this way. So it's this whole approach is with empathy, with self-compassion, and to take it slowly, as gentle with ourselves as we would be if we were learning a new language. In MVC we seek to hear each other's needs, observe our feelings, and communicate our needs. And the basics of NVC, the benefits of it in a really, really simple way, is it teaches us and others to express ourselves with clarity. It gives us a really strong sense of compassion, self-compassion, and compassion for others. It's self-responsibility. We, when somebody is fully present with us and listening to us, and hi Irina, when someone is really, really present with us and seeking to understand us, and seeking, if it's in a conflict situation, seeking to understand what it is that we need, that does call upon us a sense of self-responsibility. You know, what are my feelings right now, and where are my needs not being met? Exactly what is it? What do we feel within us? We can't just make blanket sweeping statements of you did this or you did that, or it really shifts the blame away from what other people may not done, which may be or may not be incorrect, but it's really our response to that. It's how we feel about it, and that's what we take responsibility for, and that's what actually then frees us, because we can learn over time how to express ourselves from what we're feeling from within, and then what we need, what would help us to have our needs met. So that's why it's really, really a gift of responsibility. It really helps us cultivate empathy and compassion again. And the most beautiful thing about it is everything in MVC is focused on the common good. It's focusing on problem solving. It's focusing on conflict resolution. It's not focusing on good guys and bad guys, black and white, all this very tunnel vision thinking. It's really, really focused on the common good. Really, really, what is the best outcome in this situation so that both sides can have their needs met. Let me have a sip of water, and then we're going to talk about how we can implement this with children. And I think I've gone through, I've got my little notes here as usual, the background and the benefits here. So, hi everyone. I'm glad you're trying to understand. I hope I'm not speaking too quickly, everyone who's trying to understand. So where should we go now? Where I want to take you now is into implementing this with children. And what we're first going to do in this next section is we're going to look at ways that we lay the groundwork for non-violent communication, where we are doing it in non-conflict situations, how this can be part of everyday life. This is speaking and listening from the heart. Again, think back to the giraffe. The giraffe has the largest heart of any land mammal. This is what it is. This is speaking and listening from our giraffe hearts. So, the energy we want to bring to this, the energy of our home, the energy of our environment, our school, our community group, our temple, whatever it might be, it's this speaking and listening from the heart. So the energy in the environment is of speaking and listening from the heart, and that means expressing our needs in a healthy way and listening to others' needs in a healthy way. And laying this foundation with children looks like, let's really give a really good example. So your 3-year-old is coming over and pushing you, or hitting his or her little brother, or banging and banging and banging on the door, or slamming the gate backwards and forwards, anything like that. Any of these things that can really trigger us as adults, as parents. We're tired, we're in a hurry, we've got loads of things going on. So we can put that into an MVC framework by saying, it looks as if you're trying to say something. It looks as if you're trying to tell me something. Can you feel what it is that you need? And we can say this from a really, really young age. If we can start this when our children are little, I mean, it's never too late to start, but if we can start this when our children are toddlers, maybe with fewer words, a shorter sentence, can you tell me what you need? And as children get older, they can have more complex sentences. But really, getting them, if we circle back to what I said about self-responsibility, this is from a really, really young age, allowing our children to access their feelings within themselves, in their body. You know, it looks like something doesn't feel good to you. I can see from you shouting, or you banging, or you're really upset, I can see something's happening for you on the outside of your body. Can you tell me what it is that you need? Can you feel what it is that you need? This is bringing in self-responsibility from a really, really young age. This isn't saying stop that, because they probably will stop the behavior. Once we have acknowledged that there's something going on for them, they probably will stop banging that door. They probably will stop hitting their brother. They probably will be able to redirect in a different way, and we can redirect in a different way. So this is the groundwork, where when we're not in a situation where we're triggered, where we can really get to think about speaking in this way, getting them to express their feelings when they're not really, really upset already. So do you know what you need? Can you tell me what you need? It looks like you're trying to tell me something. Your body seems really, really tense. I can see you're crying. Can you tell me what it is that you need? And as children get older, they're going to be able to feel this more and more, where we're drawing attention to how they feel in their body. Can you feel what it is that you need? This really, really is a gift, because then they come out of their heads, and our natural instinct is to, depending on how we were brought up, is to blame and put the blame on someone else. It's someone else, how someone else has behaved. But if we can get them from a young age to think about what it is that they really need, and we know that any behavior that is undesirable, inappropriate, demonstrates most probably an unmet need. So our work is to help our child express that unmet need. And something I've started doing with Harry actually recently is if he, we're in a situation that, say, he's not hitting or fighting, but he's being a bit too rough. So he's being a bit rough with our cat, or he's being a bit rough with me, or he's being a bit rough with his sister, or in the car something's not working for him and he's kicking the seat in front or something. And what I've started doing is saying, in a really gentle, jokey way, say, "Oh, hello, feet. It looks like you're trying to say something. What is it that you need? What is it you need to say?" And so really diffusing that situation. And remember, this is a situation where he's just being a bit too much. It's not a full-on conflict or fighting situation. A situation where he's being a bit too much. So what I want to do is really cool that temperature down, but also find out what he's trying to say. He's clearly trying to say something, because he doesn't hit for no reason, he doesn't kick for no reason. There's something that's going on for him. And he also want to say he's 5.5, so he is beyond the toddler stage of being naturally more aggressive, because the communication isn't there. His communications are really good. He's 5.5 years old. We do a lot of work on how we're feeling in our bodies, so there's been a lot of groundwork already. And so I can say in this playful way, "Hello, feet, what are you trying to say to me?" It looks as if you're trying to say something. And then I would actually speak to the soles of his feet, or speak to his hands, or whatever it is, and then try and help him feel in that way what it is. Express what it is, or at least get it out of his body in a playful way. And then in the car, I'll give you another example of how we do it is groundwork. So on the car, on the way back from school, they're both tired. There's often arguments that happen. And what will happen is that they'll be having an argument. And Olivia, she's older, she's more expressive, she communicates more. So she will say, "This happened and that happened, and Harry's doing this and da-da-da and that." And then Harry will get annoyed and he'll just hit her from the car seats, and then scrapping in the back of the car seats. And in that situation, I can say, "Olivia, I can hear what you're saying. I hear you've expressed your needs really, really well. I need to now hear what Harry wants. What are Harry's needs?" And often, because Olivia's older, she's much more articulate, and she'll just carry on shouting over Harry and saying, "He did this and he did that," and he's not actually having any space there to express himself. So my work, I feel in that moment, is say, "I can see something's happening for you, Olivia. I can hear what's happening for you. I can also see something's happening for Harry. Harry, what is it that you need?" And again, turn it like that. Give them that sense of responsibility. What is it that you're feeling inside? I'm wondering if you might be feeling tired, you might be feeling hungry, you might be feeling frustrated because we've been in the car a long time collecting Olivia. But that is the groundwork that you do when you want to get our children used to speaking in this way, used to us demonstrating that what they're feeling is valid, that their behavior might not be the best way of expressing it, but we want to hear what they have to say. And we can find, "Hi, Janisha," and if they feel within them, they will find what their needs are. So that's the groundwork piece. Speaking and listening from the heart is what we're focusing on in nonviolent communication, and the groundwork piece is get used to saying this in these conversations. If you're at home having dinner, it's when we're talking about our day, or saying, "I don't," you hear often from a child, "I don't like anything, I don't want to eat any dinner, I'm not going to eat anything, I don't want it." And it's like, "Oh, I can feel this isn't working for you. What are your needs? What would you have wanted?" This open conversation, allowing our children to express what their needs are. We won't be able to give them what they want the whole time. And Sarah, who's listening, her and I were talking about her 3-year-old son wanting every single ice cream in the supermarket. And it's perfectly okay for him to want every single ice cream in the supermarket. We don't have to give him everything that they want, but what we really want is we want to hear their voices. We want to lay this foundation that we care about what their needs are. We care about what their feelings are. And this is one way of doing it. And then The third piece I wanted to share with you is using NVC in more of a conflict situation, in a situation where there's a frustration and you want to move them forward into something else. So for example, it's bedtime and everyone's messing around and hi Nada, and there's rolling around and they're wrestling on the bed, and maybe they now started fighting and now they're jumping on the bed, and they did have their pajamas on and now they've taken it off. So this is situations where we're feeling triggered, and this is where NVC works really beautifully. If we've already laid this groundwork where we're used to expressing each other's needs, we're used to making sure that they're heard and validated in their expression, and then we express what we want as well. So a really good example of this would be, so let's use the bedtime shenanigans one, as I did on that Instagram post. So there's lots of tomfoolery going on, so we could say something like, I feel really frustrated when there's rough and tumble at bedtime. I need there to be a calm environment as we're settling down to go to sleep. Would you be willing to ... Would you be willing to put your pajamas on so we can get into bed and read a story? So in that scenario, I've said what I'm feeling. I'm feeling frustrated because there's rough and tumble. I might want to say, I'm so frustrated because you do this every single night and it's so annoying and you don't get into bed and you don't listen. I might want to say that, but if I'm speaking from my heart, what I really want to do is depersonalize it and say, I'm feeling frustrated because there's rough and tumble. We're not blaming anyone, we're not shaming anyone, we're just saying what the facts are. There's rough and tumble and I'm feeling frustrated about it. I'm saying what my need is. I need there to be a calming down period as we're getting ready to go to bed. And then we're making the request, and my request is, would you be willing to pop your pajamas, or would you be willing to jump into bed so I can read you a story? And a really amazing, powerful thing in this is that when we say the would you be willing, when you've said the pieces before, they're so much more likely to agree and actually move forward in the way that you want them to, because we've shown the respect. We've said what our needs are, we've said what our feelings are, we've said what our needs are, and we've asked this question. You know, as a human being to human being, we haven't accused them of anything, we haven't blamed them or shamed them for anything, we haven't barked orders. We're actually speaking to them and making them a genuine request. And 9 times out of 10, that request is fulfilled. They kind of come back into themselves. And in those moments that the request isn't fulfilled, so that they've gone too far, then what I would do is just grab the book and start reading anyway. So if we want to move through this sequence of really allowing our feelings and their feelings and our needs and their needs to be expressed with an open heart, and then you make a request of what it is. So there's the observing what you're feeling within ourselves and expressing it, stating what our need is and making a request, knowing that the request might not be fulfilled, but the way that we express ourselves with clarity, with empathy, with compassion, that is what makes the difference and makes this non-violent communication and this whole beautiful circle of ensuring that people are seen and people are heard. It's a language of love. It's speaking and listening from the heart. And when we're able to express ourselves in this way, in these more difficult moments, in these conflict moments where we might be feeling triggered, the beauty is it gets easier and easier every time. As I said, this is learning a new language. This isn't going to click straight away. This is going to be false starts and saying the wrong words and getting the words mixed up. But the energy around it, like with everything we discuss, the energy with which we do something, the words don't need to be perfect, but the energy of this is how I'm feeling, this is what I need, would you be willing to? Would you be willing to do this? Would you be willing to do that? I feel really frustrated when the toys are all over the floor when we've just tidied up. I need your bedroom floor to be tidy before we leave the house? Would you be willing to put the teddies back in the cupboard before we leave? And what's really great is then often the child will come back with, they'll either do it or they'll come back with, no, I don't want to, I want to do it, or you do it, or you help me. They'll come back with something else because we've got an open dialogue. We've opened a dialogue rather than closing them down. Because if we do it without the blame and without the shame, they're open. We, what's that beautiful expression? There's spaciousness. They feel the spaciousness within that. There's room for them to move in these scenarios. There's room for them to be the expression of themselves. There's room for them to say no. There's room, if we're expressing and listening from our hearts, there's room for them to do that as well, and they feel that. So, do you have any questions about MVC? It's what I really recommend is the book, but I actually lent it to someone. It's a book called Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life by Marshall D. Rosenberg. What's really amazing is in the book there's a list of feelings and a list of needs, and it's really, really useful because you can look through at all these different feelings and then you can work out what the need is linked to it. And the reason that I found that really useful is that often when we're first starting out on this, it's not so clear either what our feeling is. We feel that we need it to be really tidy and all these things, or we know what the feeling is but don't know what the need is, or vice versa. And then that gives us this framework of, okay, I know that I'm feeling really with this, which means I need this. I need order. I need it to be tidy before we leave the house. These type of things. And then when we've got this framework of speaking in that way, speaking and listening from the heart, then these moments of conflict are so much easier over time. And this is a language that grows with us, because remember, as our children get older, you know, with Olivia now almost at 8 years old, she is so articulate, she is so expressive, she's one step ahead of me in all of these conversations. It's really, really, really powerful to see her using this language in this way. And as our children grow and mature and they have their own ideas and they have their own friends and they have their own social circles, we want to be able to find a way of communicating. We want to be able to find a way of communicating that's really, really powerful, that makes sure that we are still maintaining a connection with them, even in conflict situations. Thank you, Vino. Vino sent a really good question, asked a really good question. When our child hits us, we go through those same 3 steps. That is a great question, Vino. And the answer to that is really depending on the age of the child and depending on what state of regulation or dysregulation your child is in. So if it's a 3-year-old who is dysregulated and, you know, that feeling of they're out of their body, then what we need to do is help them regulate, is co-regulate them. And that what might mean through a cuddle, that might mean through playing hide and seek with them, that might be through a tickle, whatever, you know, that might be just sitting down and starting to read a book and they'll come to you and they'll calm down. And actually, for a highly sensitive child, like Harry is really, really sensitive, and I know if he's in this moment where he is really out of his body and upset and, you know, in old school language, it would be having a tantrum or a meltdown or what have you. What the best thing I can do for Harry is to just sit down wherever he is and just read a book with him. And that works every single time. And he doesn't want to be touched and he doesn't want to even look at him in those situations. But if I sit down and read a book, within 30 seconds he will come and be curious. So in answer to your question, Vino, it really depends on the situation. If it's a non-stressful situation, if you're not feeling triggered, you just know that Yana is trying to say something to you, she's not really upset, it's just a bit too much, like the example that I gave earlier of when Harry's being a bit too much, like a bit too rough. There's rough and tumble, but he's being a bit too rough and sort of someone got pushed over or what have you, where it's not a frustration, it's something clearly is out of sync for the child. That's when the steps can work really well, and that inviting them into feeling what's going on. It looks like you're trying to express something. Can you tell me what you need? Or, they hit you. That's a really, if you're not triggered and they're not dysregulated, that's a really good way to bring in that humor then, is to take their little hand in yours and say, oh, hello hand, it looks like you're trying to say something. You hit me, it looks like you're trying to say something. What is it that you're feeling? Can you tell me what your needs are? Because I know you don't want to hit me. Always see the best in our child, trust in their innate goodness, and make sure that we are always affirming their goodness, their wholeness, even in these moments where they're hitting us or this really undesirable behavior. It's trusting in their innate goodness and affirming that to them. They're pulling the cat's tail, they're hitting their baby sister, what have you. I know you can't. We're in there to be their bodyguard, be their security guard. So I know you don't want to do that. I know you don't want to hurt the cat. I know you don't want to hurt your sister. What is it that you need? What is it that you're trying to say? I hope that helps, Vino. And then Nada said, what, another good question. What if the child is having big feelings for us to do something and is asking us and we just can't do it? And they start screaming and refusing to listen. Nada, that is completely normal, and it's really, really hard when they're in that situation. And a friend and I were having this conversation just this afternoon. It's really the best thing we can do in that situation is come back to thinking about, okay, co-regulation. When a child is dysregulated, so having these big feelings and they want us to do something, we can tell when our child is out of their skin. We can also tell when other children are out of their skin, but we know when our child is out of their skin. As you say, it's not even that they're refusing to listen. That part of their brain is offline. They can't listen in those moments. It's kind of like if we're having an argument with our partner, a shouting argument with our partner, we're not really listening to what the other person's saying. Do you know what I mean? We're just kind of shouting and trying to get our point across. It's the same for a child, but they are this tiny, tiny person without a developed prefrontal cortex, without all the conflict resolution skills that we're meant to have as adults, and without all of these other tools of emotional regulation that we have. So if she's dysregulated, that is the time to just be there in whatever way you know your child best. What brings her back into regulation? We are mammals and we all need co-regulation. Children will need co-regulation with another mammal, another adult, another human, before they'll be able to calm themselves down for a long, long time. And so, as I said with the example with Harry, does that mean reading a book? Does that mean just allowing her to be there and saying, I love you, it's not something I'm able to do for you right now, and I'm sorry, and genuinely, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that right now. I can see you need that, or I see you want that. I can't help you right now. And allow them that space to feel. Allow them that space to scream. Allow them that space to not listen to you. Allow them that space to vent. And this is a really, really hard part for us, because often, depending on the type of family we grew up in, that screaming and having those really big emotions and big reactions to our feelings, maybe that wasn't acceptable in our family of origin. Maybe we were told to not have attention, to be quiet, to be respectful. You can't behave like that. You can't have what you want. You're being spoiled. And so when our child brings forth these big emotions and feelings, and sometimes they'll start kicking things or hitting things or screaming that they hate us or deliberately breaking something, all of those behaviors can be really, really triggering. But honestly, I promise you, the most loving thing you can do for your child and for yourself in that moment is just allow those feelings to be there. Because when they are regulated and when they're calm, and when you're having a snuggle at night or you're reading a book later, you're going to be able to come back to those moments, and you're going to be able to use this NVC language, such as, oh, you were so upset. I saw you felt so upset when we couldn't go for a walk later, or you couldn't have the ice cream earlier. You were really, really angry, and I saw you stamping your feet, and you were really, really crying, and and you tore the page of the book, and I saw how upset you were. And then you can invite conversation. I saw what was happening on the outside of your body, what was happening on the inside of your body. Your child is what you want them to do is to express what they were feeling. You can invite those questions like, oh, it seemed like your fists were clenched. It seemed like you were really angry. Did you feel that in your body? Where did you feel really frustrated in your body? That type of language, to bring it out. We're giving them permission and that validation of what they were feeling. That doesn't mean that we need to give in. Our boundaries are our boundaries. What we're not allowing, what we don't agree with. What we are allowing is them to be not okay with our boundary. Our boundaries are our boundaries, whatever is right for our family. But we need to make it okay for them to express their displeasure and their resistance to our boundaries. And that's got to be okay, because that really is a pathway to a lot of resilience, because there's a lot of times in our lives that we can't have what we want. And it's okay to have all these things, to want things, and we can't have them sometimes because we don't have the money or the resources or whatever it might be. And it's okay for us to be annoyed. It's okay for us to be frustrated. It's okay for us to be angry. All of those things are perfectly valid human emotions. So the best, the kindest thing we can do for them, ourselves and our child, when they're in those moments of dysregulation, is to allow those feelings to be there. And I see you, I hear you, I'm here for you, and I can see that this is really difficult for you. And I know you've got a little baby as well, so you're not going to have the time to then sit and talk through it and try and calm your eldest down, all of those things, but just those few words of validation. And does it mean reading a book? If you're at home, you've got a book to hand. Does it mean just gently singing to yourself? Does it mean pouring 2 glasses of water and just handing one to her without saying anything, just with a smile, it's knowing deep within us that they need that co-regulation, and whatever is right for her to bring her back into her body in that time. If there's any more questions? Oh, lots more people have joined. Hello, everyone. So shall we circle back to the beginning? Nonviolent communication, a language of life. It is a way of speaking and listening from the heart, our giraffe heart. The heart, a giraffe heart is the largest of all land mammals. It's a way of bringing presence and understanding. It's being with people physically, emotionally, and mentally. It's reflective listening and rephrasing, and it's focusing on needs and feelings. Our feelings let us know what our needs are, whether those needs are being met or not met in that moment. With children, it's all laying the groundwork, so letting them know that all of their feelings are valid and all of those feelings are accepting. We are role modeling, listening to needs and expressing needs in a healthy way. We're listening to their needs, they're listening to our needs. So the example of bedtime or the example of cleaning up the room, we can say, I'm feeling frustrated because I need the room to be tidy before we leave to go out to the park. Would you be willing to put the teddies in the drawer and I'll make your bed for you, or whatever it is. But it's really expressing our feelings and needs without blame. You've done this, you've done that. You made me feel something like this. It's taking responsibility, and that's going to be, for most of us, learning a new language, like learning a foreign language as adults. It's hard. It's going to take lots of practice. You're going to feel to have the right words. The NVC book, Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life by Marshall D. Rosenberg, he developed this practice. I would highly, highly recommend getting it. It's got loads of examples, loads of role plays, loads of lists of feelings and needs, so we can work out what's a need and what's a feeling. Often when you dig into this work, it's really, really confusing because we've never been brought up to know the difference between needs and feelings. We may have been brought up to think that when we feel something, it's automatically someone else's fault. If we grew up in a household where there are enmeshed relationships, we might not know what our needs are and what our feelings are. We might not know that the two are linked. We might not know that there's overlap. So just getting that book. He's also got a great website, nonviolentcommunication.org, I think it is. I'd highly recommend looking at those resources. There's loads of great videos also on YouTube that you can find. And yeah, so expressing ourselves with clarity, listening and speaking from our giraffe hearts. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Before I go, I wanted to remind you of the Montessori Mission, my first book, which I published in June. And this is bird's eye view, deep dive into the cultures of 10 Montessorians from around the world, how they're Montessori parenting, how they're Montessori educating. And there's a beautiful reflective practice on each chapter. At the end of each chapter, there's a celebration of each guest's art and culture. I love this book. I keep dipping into it. In all of my work I'm doing, even this Insta Live, I've quoted guests from the book. I've quoted practices from the book. There's a journaling, an embodiment practice, and a creativity practice at the end of each chapter, which pulls out the themes that each guest has raised in their chapter. And then it's turned into the reflective practice to allow us to go deeper as a parent, deeper as educators, to understand and to know ourselves better. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Vino. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for joining. This will go on my feed if the Instagram gremlins don't mess around like they did a couple of weeks ago. It will be on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and on my website, all the usual platforms. You can buy my book, The Montessori Mission, from Amazon on Kindle and paperback. Next week, I've got a topic already. Oh, it's allowing our children's feelings. That's what it is next week. How do we hold boundaries in gentle parenting? That is the title of next week's Top Tip Tuesday masterclass on Instagram Live. Love you all. Thank you so much. Keep sending your messages. I love receiving them. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.